Hello students, welcome back to the course on stock and commodity markets. Before I start the lesson, I would like to show you some pictures. These are the ones. What are these? There are cereals and pulses, some kinds of spices like cardamom, sesame, mustard seeds, cotton seeds. Here there is barley, jowar, maize, and oil is there. That is crude oil, petroleum, silver, gold. So what are these? Don't call these as products. These are commodities. Okay? These are commodities which mainly serve as raw materials to production units. Okay? So before these are consumed, they undergo a certain type of processing or manufacturing, right? So now in this lesson, we are dealing with commodity markets. So commodity markets are those in which commodities are traded. Almost all types of commodities are traded all over the world in different commodity exchanges. And just like stock market, where stocks and shares are traded, commodity market is a general term. Okay, so commodity market refers to any physical or virtual marketplace where commodities are traded. So stock market is a place, physical or virtual, where stocks and shares are traded. Here commodities are traded in different commodity exchanges. Let us set the objectives of the study. Have a look at this picture. There is cattle, pigs, coffee, corn, soybeans, sugar, metals, oil, right? We buy and sell all these commodities. Almost every type of commodity is traded in commodity exchanges all over the world. Yes, objectives. So we are going to understand what commodities are and how they are traded in commodity markets, and understand clearing and settlement mechanism at commodity markets, and analyze the structure of commodity markets and types of contracts. So let's move on. Commodities can be broadly classified into soft commodities and hard commodities. Soft commodities are natural resources or extracted or mined from natural resources. For example, oil, oil seeds, spices, pulses, cereals, potato, plantations, fibers, sugar, livestock, and so on. So just observe these. These are usually grown on land. Cereals, pulses, spices are grown on land. And oil is extracted. Oil and oil seeds are extracted. And sugar. Sugar is made of sugar cane, right? So sugar is also a type of extraction from natural resource that is sugar cane. So these commodities are natural, they are mined or extracted from a natural resource. So they are called soft commodities. Then we come to hard commodities. See here, industrial commodities like metals, copper, nickel, zinc, aluminium, steel, tin, lead, etc. And precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, etc. And energy, crude oil, natural gas, furnace oil, power, etc. So just observe these examples and compare them with soft commodities. So what do you observe? Hard commodities are the commodities which undergo grinding, shaping, mixing, burning, or any kind of processing before they are consumed by the end users, right? So before it is finally consumed, it undergoes some kind of processing. So that is called a hard commodity, right? So we shall move on. So how do we define a commodity? It is a product that has commercial value which can be produced, bought, sold and consumed. So any product, anything that has commercial value. Commercial value means it can be exchanged for money. It can be produced, it can be bought and sold, it can be consumed, is called a commodity. So this is in general sense. So mainly commodities are the products of the primary sector of an economy. So you must have learnt about these sectors of economy: primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector, where primary sector is mainly agriculture, secondary sector is industrial activity, manufacturing, and tertiary sector is service sector, right? These commodities are mainly the products of primary sector, that is agriculture, extraction, mining, and so on. As per Indian Forward Contract Regulations Act 1952, commodity is every kind of movable property other than actionable claims, money, and securities. So this is the definition given by law. Indian Forward Contracts Regulations Act 1952. So it says every kind of movable property. It may be anything which is mobile, which is transported from one place to another, but excludes actionable claims like debtors. Some debt is given by you, I mean some loan is lent by you. So they are not commodities. Debtors is not a commodity. Bills receivable is not a commodity. And money and securities. Money is not a commodity. Securities is not a commodity. That is covered by stock market, stock exchanges. Okay. Securities are not commodities. Then Characteristics of a commodity. So what I said till now can be recapitulated into a number of points like this. It must not have gone through any complicated manufacturing activity. Okay, it must be a product from primary sector of the economy and must not have gone through any manufacturing activity, complicated manufacturing activity. But there are some exceptions for this. Sugar. Sugar is traded in commodity exchanges. Sugar has gone through some manufacturing activity. Whether it is complex or not complex, I don't know. But sugar has gone through some processing. Okay. So there are some exceptions like that. Even some sorts of seeds and cereals are processed, right? So they are all exceptions. They are still traded in commodity markets. But usually a commodity must not have gone through such complicated manufacturing activity. Yes, fairly standardized. It must be fairly standardized. For example, 50 grams of gold purchased in Delhi is equal to 50 grams of gold purchased in Bangalore, right? In the same way, 100 quintals of wheat purchased in Calcutta is equal to 100 quintals of wheat purchased in Mumbai. Are you getting the point? Yes, it must be fairly standardized. So wheat purchased in Calcutta, wheat purchased in Mumbai, they are of the same grade, they are of the same standard, right? And gold purchased in Delhi, gold purchased in Bangalore, they are of the same standard. You cannot change it. Gold is gold, that's all. So that uniformity must be there. Uniformity must be there in the commodities, must be fairly standardized, capable of dividing into units, convenient units. Okay. Demand and supply determine commodity prices. So this is a general law. Demand and supply forces. So as we know, almost all types of commodities are their prices are determined by demand and supply forces, right? Then competing sellers in the market. So take any commodity, for example some metal like aluminium. There are competing sellers in the market for aluminium always. Because when there is demand for aluminium, there are hundreds of companies extracting aluminium and processing it to sell for a profit, right? So when people come to know that there is some profit in doing something, they will capitalize on it, right? So when there is demand for aluminium, there are at least hundreds of companies offering aluminium at competitive prices. So there are always competing sellers in the market when there is demand. Adequate shelf life. Commodities should have adequate shelf life. perishable commodities like vegetables, milk products. So these cannot be commodities. Okay. Sugar can be a commodity. It has adequate shelf life. So it can be kept for a number of months at least, right? So commodities should not be perishable like vegetables, milk and milk products. So it should have adequate shelf life. So next, commodity markets components. So here in the picture we see participants in commodities, farmers, producers, corporates, agriculture credit providing agencies, commodity financiers, consumers or industry. What is this? Regulators or exchanges, importers and exporters. I didn't get this one. Merchandisers. Merchandisers or traders. Okay. So merchandisers or traders means retail shops, retailers. Retailers and wholesalers who deal in commodities. So mainly buyers and sellers, consumers and producers. So buyers are the consumers and sellers may be the producers. So they are a integral part of the commodity market. So it means there is a demand for something and one person is producing that and marketing it, right? So there are consumers and there are producers. When there is a producer, there must be a consumer. And when there is a consumer, there must be a producer. So when there is a demand, there must be supply, right? Then logistics companies. Logistics means firms which take care of transport, packing. Firms which take care of transport, packing, and arrangement of equipments during transport. So finally, to put it in simple words, transporting of goods to consumers. Transporting of goods to consumers. So they are called logistics companies. So who look after those supply chain management. Markets and exchanges. This I have explained. So commodity markets means it's a general term denoting all the marketplaces, whether physical or virtual, where commodities are traded, right? And exchanges are the particular places, like stock exchange. Stock exchange is a particular place where stocks and shares are traded. So commodity exchanges are also particular places. They are organizations where commodities are traded. So these commodity exchanges are the organizations which facilitate trading in commodities. Organizations which facilitate trading in commodities. Then support agencies. So here we can see some of the support agencies like commodity financiers. They finance trading of commodities, and insurance firms. What if during transport of commodities something happens, some accident or something, right? So insurance firms, commodity financiers, And what else is there? Agriculture credit providing agencies. So the credit cooperatives, these are support agencies. They support trading of commodities. Then lending agencies. So as the name itself suggests, lending agencies are the banks, financial institutions, cooperative societies, etc., which provide finance for trading of commodities. It is there. Commodity financiers. Yes, lending agencies are commodity financiers. Let us move on. So legal framework provided by Forward Contracts Regulation Act 1952. In the same way, there is Securities Contracts Regulation Act 1956 for regulating stock markets. In the same way, there is Forward Contracts Regulation Act 1952 for regulating commodity contracts, right? Let us see what this FCRA says. This act applies to goods which are defined as any movable property other than security, currency, and actionable claims. So that definition has been given by FCRA. Any movable property other than security, money, and actionable claims. And this act classifies contracts into two broad categories: ready delivery contracts and forward contracts. Ready delivery contracts are those which are settled immediately or maximum 11 days. So those contracts which are settled immediately or they may take maximum 11 days. So within 11 days they are going to be settled. Settled in the sense commodities will be delivered, payment will be made. Forward contracts. So forward contracts take a specific duration of period mentioned in the forward contract, usually like 1 month forwards, 3 months forwards, 6 months forwards, and at a maximum 1 year. Okay, so it takes a particular period and that period will be mentioned in the forward contract. And forward contracts are implicitly classified into two broad categories: specific delivery contracts and non-specific delivery contract or standardized contract. In specific delivery contracts, terms of delivery are specific to each contract. Okay, terms of delivery is specific to each contract. So they may mention the commodity is to be transported in this way by using so and so transport and to be warehoused at a particular place, like that. So they may place terms of delivery in the contract. So such terms of delivery are specific to each contract. They are called specific delivery contracts. Second one, non-specific delivery contract or standardized contracts. They are standardized. No changes are allowed. There is uniformity in every contract. Okay, so terms of delivery are also common to all types of contracts. They are called standardized contracts. Next, three-tier regulation. So this legal framework includes three-tier regulation. So three levels of authority are involved in regulating commodity markets. Let us see what are they. The exchange, the commodity exchange, FMC, that is Forward Market Commission. We will see the details of FMC in the coming slides. And the third one, the central government. The central government's Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution Department. First one, the exchange. Every commodity exchange will have its own rules, regulations and bylaws to conduct its operations. So commodity brokers, investors, traders, speculators, all are bound to follow such rules, regulations and bylaws. So that comes under the framework, legal framework. Second one, FMC, Forward Market Commission. It is established in 1953. It is the chief regulator of commodity futures contracts in India, headquartered in Mumbai. And the third one, the central government, Ministry of Consumer Affairs Department, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution Department. The central government is authorized to frame legislations to control the trading of commodity and commodity derivatives. So this power has been given to the central government by FCRA Act. So moving on, we are coming to the history and evolution of commodity markets in India. You can remember barter exchange was in practice in India many centuries back. So when the medium of exchange came, barter system was discontinued because money as a medium of exchange proved to be efficient, effective. So we followed that. Then an economic system developed and civilizations developed and all that. So we shall see point by point in this slide. Firstly, Bombay Cotton Association Limited was set up in 1875. Probably that was the first step. That was the first effort of establishing a commodity market. Then futures trading was allowed in oil seeds organized by Gujarati Vyapari Mandali, set up in 1900. In 1919, Government of Bombay passed Bombay Contract Control War Provisions Act and set up Cotton Contracts Board. Then what happened? Government of Bombay issued an ordinance in 1939 prohibiting options business. Even FMC was set up to prohibit options, commodity options, but now commodity options are allowed. In 1943, forward contracts in oil seeds were banned. Government of Bombay enacted the Bombay Forward Contract Control Act in 1947. Then futures trading in raw jute and jute goods started in Calcutta with the Calcutta Hessian Exchange Limited in 1919. East Indian Jute Association Limited was set up in 1927. Both combined to form East India Jute of Hessian Limited. Wheat futures started at several centers at Punjab and UP, like Chamber of Commerce at Hapur, established in 1913. Then futures market in bullion. Bullion means gold, silver, okay, gold and silver metals. Futures market in bullion began at Mumbai in 1920, and later similar markets came up at Rajkot, Jaipur, Delhi, Calcutta, etc. Then in 1952, the Forward Contracts Regulation Act was passed. This is a major milestone. Forward Contracts Regulation Act, with which controls all transferable forward and futures contracts. Dantwala Committee was appointed in 1966 and Khusro Committee was appointed in 1980. They recommended the reintroduction of futures trading in major commodities. Professor K.N. Kabra Committee recommended allowing forward and futures trading in 17 commodity groups. Strengthening of the Forward Market Commission, amendments to the Forward Contracts Regulation Act 1952. So this is a major committee, important committee. Professor K.N. Kabra Committee. So their recommendations. Then National Agricultural Policy announced by government in 1999. All important agricultural products were allowed under futures trading. Then Demat holdings were introduced. Demat holdings, online trading of commodities and holding of commodities in Demat form was introduced around 2000, towards the end of the millennium. So this is how commodity markets evolved in India. Barter system is not mentioned in this slide because barter system existed many centuries back. So here we deal with 19th century and 20th century. So the first bullet point says some association was formed in 1875. So we don't touch how this commodity market evolved so deeply to go to centuries ago. So since the time Britishers started ruling our country, these are the developments. So in the examination, if you get a question about history and evolution of commodity markets, you can write simply some of the major points like what do you say? Government of Bombay passed an ordinance in prohibiting options business. That was a major decision. And futures trading in raw jute and raw jute goods, that one. And Forward Contracts Regulation Act was passed. Then Dantwala Committee, K.N. Kabra Committee, National Agricultural Policy, Demat holdings introduced. So these major points you can write. Okay. I don't dwell too deeply into this history and evolution. Let us move on. Forward Market Commission. So on the top right corner, we have Forward Markets Commission logo. their name board. So Forwards Market Commission was set up in 1953 under the FCRA Act 1952. It is responsible for regulating and promoting forward or futures trade in commodities. So it regulates all contracts which come under commodity derivatives, futures or forwards. It is supervised by Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Government of India. So the hierarchy comes like this. Central government, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution Department. Below that, what do we have? FMC, Forward Market Commission. Below that, below the FMC, we have Commodity Exchange. So this is the hierarchy. Then shall consist of not less than 2 but not exceeding 4 members. So this commission always consists of 2 members. It may increase up to 4. Appointed by central government. Those members are appointed by central government. And for FMC functions, it advises the central government in respect of recognition or the withdrawal of recognition. So based on data, FMC analyzes which stock exchange is to be given recognition, which stock exchange is to be withdrawn recognition. So it will decide and advise the central government to do so. To keep forward markets under observation and to take such action necessary. So it always keeps observing forward markets, what's happening. So if any abnormality or irregularity is found, it will report to the central government. Then it collects the information, and whenever the commission feels it necessary, and it also publishes. So it collects all material information, and whenever it feels it necessary, it publishes such information. Then make recommendations generally with a view to improving the organization and working of forward markets. FMC always strives to improve working of forward markets, and it gives recommendations to the central government to improve the organization, to improve how things and departments are organized. Then undertake the inspection of accounts and other documents of any recognized or registered association. It has every right to inspect accounts and documents of any association, registered or recognized association, and take such action necessary. Now we come to structure of commodity market. Here we have two pictures. So you must have learnt about organization structure. So in the same way, commodity market has a structure. So just observe the first picture. Here, as I said earlier, there is Ministry of Consumer Affairs on the top, and below it there is FMC, and below it there is Commodity Exchange. There are numerous commodity exchanges in India, 6 major national commodity exchanges like MCX, that is Multi Commodity Exchange, NCDEX, that is National Commodity Derivatives Exchange of India, NMCE, that is National Multi-Commodity Exchange of India, then ICEX, Indian Commodity Exchange, ACX, that is ACE Commodity Exchange of India, ACX, and UCX, Universal Commodity Exchange. So like this, there are totally 6 major national commodity exchanges, but some of the exchanges are merging with others. In 2018, even BSE and NSE started trading in commodity derivatives. Apart from this, there are regional exchanges. There are numerous regional exchanges. So as per this picture, there are 20 other regional exchanges along with NBOT. So these exchanges are limited to a particular region. Okay. So trading of commodities happen in only that restricted area. Then what do we have in the other picture below it? Derivative. About derivatives. I just give you a fine example. Just take milk and curd. Milk has a particular price. Curd has a particular price. Curd is made from milk. So we say curd's price is dependent on milk. So if price of milk goes up, price of curd also goes up. If price of milk comes down, then price of curd also comes down, right? So this is just an example. In the same way, these derivatives work. Suppose in the place of milk, there is a share, company's stocks, shares. Okay. There is a number of companies' shares, a particular company. So what is in the place of curds? That company's derivative. That is that company's futures, to say futures. For example, I will mention a particular company, Axis Bank. Okay, Axis Bank. You must have heard about this bank, private bank, Axis Bank. So Axis Bank's shares are traded in stock exchanges. Okay. So there are futures on Axis Bank shares. So it is called Axis Bank futures. Axis Bank futures. So Axis Bank futures don't exist independently. Their price is dependent upon Axis Bank share price. Okay. Axis Bank futures is not independent. It is dependent on Axis Bank share price. Okay. So in that way. So such assets may be stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, interest rates, market indices, anything. So in the place of milk, you can bring anything. So anything which is legally traded in the market. So how do we define derivative? A derivative is a financial security with a value that is reliant upon or derived from an underlying asset or group of assets. So these are the assets: stocks, bonds, commodities. So these are the assets. So derivative is a financial security which gets its value dependent upon or derived from an underlying asset or a group of assets. Okay. So just remember the milk and curd example. So these are milk: stocks, bonds, commodities, interest rates, uh, currencies, market indices. These are milk. Curd is derivative, futures. Futures, options, these are derivatives. Then, so structure of commodity market, we have certain points. So firstly, spot or cash market. So you can guess, suppose. So this is the market where settlement happens immediately or within a short period of time. Okay, settlement happens immediately or within a short period of time. So within 11 days at present. So within 11 days, the commodity is going to be delivered and the settlement is to happen. That is called spot or cash market. Derivative market. So market where derivatives are traded: financial derivatives, commodity derivatives. Financial derivatives are those derivatives where the underlying asset is a financial asset like currency, stock, bond. So these are financial derivatives. Okay. Commodity derivatives. So those where underlying asset is commodity. That is called commodity derivatives. For example, wheat futures. Wheat futures 3 months. Or to say gold futures. Gold futures 3 months. Like that. Financial derivatives, for example, HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank 3 months futures. Okay. To give another example, Godrej. Godrej Consumer Products 3 months futures. Like that. Okay. So underlying asset is a financial asset like stocks, bonds, interest rates, etc. So they are called financial derivatives. If underlying asset is commodity, then it is called commodity derivative. Then forward contracts, futures contracts. There is a small difference between forward contract and future contract. Both are same. The only difference is forwards are not standardized. Futures are standardized. And futures are traded in exchanges. Futures are traded in exchanges, but forwards are not traded in exchanges because they are not standardized. So this is a major difference. So to define future, future is a financial contract. Future is a financial contract under which one party agrees to buy or sell a particular asset at a predetermined price at a specified date in future. Okay, and the same definition for forward also, but the difference is forward can be specific to needs of the parties. You can change it. You can have agreement for even 5 kgs of rice or 500 kgs of rice. Okay, but futures are standardized. Okay, only 10 quintals, only 1 quintal. Okay, or in multiples of 1 quintal, like that, standardized contracts. So this is the difference. So because futures are standardized, they are traded in exchanges, commodity exchanges. Forwards are not standardized, so they are not traded in exchanges. Then the last one, commodity options. You might have heard about call option and put option. So option means right, but not the obligation to buy or sell a particular asset at a particular date at a specified price. Okay. So here the particular asset is commodity. If the particular asset is commodity, then it is called commodity option. If the particular asset is stock, then it is called stock option. Like that. So option is right, but not the liability or not the obligation to buy or sell a particular asset at a particular price at a specified date in future. And one more thing, if the option is to be exercised within a specified date, then it is called American option. If the option is to be exercised at a particular point of date or particular date, then it is called European option. For example, an option which is exercisable within September 30, okay, within September 30, 2020 is any day up to September 30. You can exercise the option on any day up to September 30. It is called American option. They give such freedom to exercise on any day. Okay, Liberty Statue. So they give more freedom to exercise on any day up to September 30. But only on September 30 is European option. You can exercise the option only on that particular day, September 30. If you want to exercise it on September 30 or it will lapse. So that is European option. So European options and American options. These are two styles of options, and categorically call option and buy option are there. So call option is a right to buy a particular asset. Put option is right to sell a particular asset. Call option is to buy, put option is to sell. Okay. Then we shall move on. I don't think it is too much for you. Yeah. We come to differences between forwards and futures. So let us go one by one. Forwards are not traded on an exchange. Futures are traded on an exchange. Forward is a private contract, and forwards are negotiated between the parties with no exchange guarantee. Future contracts are exchange based, and exchange guarantees all transactions. Any default is taken care of by the exchange through a clearing house. So clearing house of the exchange guarantees each and every future transaction. So it is going to take the responsibility of settling each and every future transaction, future contract. Forwards involve no margin payments as mutual goodwill is the basis for contracting. So no margin because they are not traded on exchanges. They are not guaranteed by the exchange. So no margin is to be paid to the exchange. So no margin payments, but mutual belief or mutual goodwill is the basis for contracting. Mutual trust is the basis for contracting. But in future contracts, margin is to be paid as good faith money, as a deposit. What if the other party defaults? So for that, we have to pay margin to the exchange. Forwards are used for hedging and physical delivery. So it is used to, hedging means uh, reducing the risk of financial loss which happens due to price fluctuations. Okay, reduce the risk of financial loss which happens due to price fluctuations. So it is used for that purpose, hedging and physical delivery. But futures are used for hedging and speculation. Yes, it is mainly used for speculation because they are traded on exchanges, they have got liquidity. Terms of contracts are dependent upon the negotiated contract. So in case of forwards, those private parties, suppose you and me, negotiate on terms of contract like commodity, the price, terms of delivery, what if default happens, everything. Terms of contract will be negotiated between you and me, and so we execute a contract. That's a private contract which is called forward. Okay. But in case of future contracts, the terms are standardized and published by the exchange. Terms are standardized. So you can't sell 1 kg of rice. No, you can't sell. You can't sell 110 kgs of rice. No. It is standardized. 1 quintal in multiples of 1 quintal. Yeah, you can do. 2 quintal, 3 quintal, you can do multiples. So that is the main characteristic of future contracts. Terms are standardized. Even terms of delivery, settlement, everything is standardized. Forward contracts are not transparent. So these forward contract details are not known to anybody because it happens between two private parties. So they are not transparent. They are not public. Future contracts are transparent and reported. And forwards are settled by physical delivery. Obviously, because they are not traded on exchanges. Okay, maybe some forward contracts are transferred to some other person, but finally it will be settled in physical delivery. Okay, so forward contracts are settled by physical delivery. In case of futures, there is no counterparty risk, so most contracts are cash settled. So futures pass on from one person to another person. It's just like stocks and shares. If he gets a profit, he will sell it to some other trader. If he gets a profit, he will sell to some other trader, like that. So because there is no counterparty risk, the counterparty risk or default risk is taken care of by clearing house. So contracts are cash settled. If he gets profit, the amount will be credited to his account If he suffers loss, the amount will be deducted like that. Then we move on to commodity options and swaps. These are quite complicated derivative products. I shall explain this. So we have seen what are options. I have explained. So option is a right but not the obligation to buy or sell a particular asset at a particular price at a specified date, right? If the particular asset is commodity, then it is called commodity option. If the particular asset is stocks and shares, then it is called stock options. Call option. Call option is the right to buy. Right to buy commodity at a specified price at a right to buy or sell. Sorry, I'm lost because this is a long video. Call option is a right to buy a particular commodity at a specified price on a specified date. Okay. Put option is the right to sell. Right to sell, but not the obligation, a particular commodity at a specified date at a specified price. So call means buy, put means sell. For example, a put option to sell 100 quintals of wheat at a price of 2500 and a premium of 50 rupees per quintal. Wait. Yeah. So by a put option, you want to sell 100 quintals of wheat at a price of 2500, and for that you pay a premium of 50 rupees per quintal. Options are not free. You have to pay premium called option premium. Okay. So you pay 50 rupees per quintal. So that comes to 5000 rupees. 50 into 100 quintals, that is 5000 rupees. So you pay 5000 rupees as option premium and you buy the option. Now, on that particular date in future, suppose the price rises to 2800 per quintal. Okay. The market price of wheat rises to 2800 per quintal on that future date. So what will you do? Do you exercise the option or not? So it is wise not to exercise the option. Let the option lapse and sell wheat at market price. Because it is 2800, market price is 2800. Okay. So if you exercise the option, you can sell at only 2500. So you suffer 300 loss per quintal. So it is wise not to exercise the option. We shall look at the other way. Suppose on the future date, the market price comes down to 2000. The market price of wheat comes down to 2000. What will you do? You have to exercise the option, right? Because on that future date, the market price is 2000. Your option is telling you sell me at 2500. So you have to exercise the option, right? If you sell at market price, you will suffer 500 rupees loss, right? So you have to exercise the option. So options work like that. So if you take call option example, it is the same. But in case of call option, we are going to buy instead of selling. So then what are swaps? I think up to here you are clear with this concept. So what are options? What are call options? What are put options? Call is to buy, put is to sell. So option is right but not the obligation to buy or sell a particular asset, in this case commodity, at a specified price at a specified future date. So now what are swaps? Swap means exchange, right? Exchange. I give you my mobile, you give me some books, costly books. So I want books, you want mobile. So we are exchanging it, swapping it, right? In the same way. So in this picture on the right side, swaps say one party pays a flexible interest rate and the other pays a fixed interest rate. This is the interest rate swap. In swaps, there are two types, interest rate swaps and currency swaps. Okay. I tell you the definition at the end. I will just give you an example. A person has borrowed 1 lakh rupees at fixed rate of interest from a bank. A person has borrowed 1 lakh rupees at fixed rate of interest from a bank. Fixed rate of interest. Another party has taken 1 lakh rupees loan at floating rate of interest from a bank. Okay. So there are two parties. Both have taken 1 lakh rupees loan from a bank. But one party has taken it at a fixed rate. The other party has taken it at a floating rate. So fixed rate means the rate of interest remains fixed throughout the tenure of the loan. Floating rate means it fluctuates. It floats according to the market interest rate. So according to the market interest rate fluctuations, it fluctuates. Here, the problem is the person who has taken fixed rate wants floating rate. And the person who has taken floating rate wants fixed rate. So now what they can do? Both have taken 1 lakh rupees. So no problem. So they will swap. They will exchange interest rates. Right? So this is just an example. To search for such a guy is a headache, right? To search for a person who has taken 1 lakh rupees loan at a floating rate from a bank is not an easy job, right? And who is willing to exchange with me, okay? Who is willing to exchange with the person for fixed interest rate is not easy to find. So anyway, so they both decide to exchange the interest rates. So amount is not a problem. 1 lakh, 1 lakh. So no problem. So the person who wants floating rate will pay floating rate, and the person who wants fixed rate will pay fixed rate. Over. Right? So the problem is solved. They both come together and exchange their loans, interest rates. That's it. So his interest rate will be paid by him, and this person's interest rate will be paid by that person, like that. So exchanging interest rates. So commonly used swaps or interest rate swaps. This is what just I told you. And currency swaps. Suppose the loan is in different currency. An Indian and an American are dealing. Indian has taken loan in rupees. American has taken loan in dollars. Now currency swap also happens. Okay. So currency fluctuations also come into picture. So that risk also is there. So currency swaps, these are called currency swaps. So swaps where interest rates are exchanged, floating rate and fixed rate are exchanged, they are called interest rate swaps. Where currencies are involved, they are called currency swaps. So I will tell you pay in Indian currency, you will tell me pay in US dollar. So this is a currency swap. So like that. Yeah. So this is the last slide, I hope. Benefits or functions and limitations of commodity markets. So we shall see the benefits first. So this is a very common feature of commodity derivatives, hedging. So commodity derivatives are usually used for hedging, that is reducing the risk of financial loss due to price fluctuations. So for that purpose, commodity derivatives are best bet. Liquidity. Commodity derivatives provide liquidity. It helps money flow, right? It helps money flow in the market. When there are more things available in the market, when there are more options available in the market, money flows into the market because people want those things. They can pay money for that, right? So it provides liquidity. Commodity options, commodity features provide liquidity. Price discovery. So because of organized exchanges, price discovery has become very easy. We can find a person who is willing to pay 1000 rupees for a 500 rupees product, 500 rupees commodity, right? So you can discover price like that. So this helps in price discovery. You can discover better prices when we want to sell. And price stabilization. This process will not go too far. Remember, if you sell 500 rupees product for 1000 rupees to someone, you cannot sell like that for long. For long periods of time, you cannot sell like that. Because there are people who want to capitalize on that, who want to make use of that opportunity. You are not the sole trader in the market. Okay. So this helps in price stabilization. Prices become stable. Prices don't fluctuate heavily for a long period of time. Prices come to stabilize. Flexibility, certainty, transparency. So this commodity contracts, derivatives are traded in organized commodity exchanges. So transparency will be there. What is happening in the exchange, how much volume is traded, at what price, everything will be known to the public. And flexibility and certainty will be there. Flexibility to say to cancel orders and sell to another trader in the exchange. I mean, cash settlement. So there is flexibility, there is certainty. We can keep track of all the transactions we do in commodity markets. Then efficiency in trading. Commodity exchanges all over India are using sophisticated technologies. This VSAT, lease line, everything. So there is efficiency in trading. So here efficiency means all the relevant information regarding that particular commodity will be reflected in the price of the commodity. This is called efficiency. Okay. In stock market also we use this term, efficiency in trading. When all the relevant information regarding the company is reflected in the price of the company's share, then it is called efficiency. If there is 100% efficiency, then it means that all the relevant information, including rumors, hearsay, guesses, judgments, etc., will reflect on the share price. That is called 100% efficiency. In the commodity market also, all the relevant information regarding the particular commodity reflect on the commodity price. That is called efficiency. Useful to exporters and farmers, of course. If farmers want to sell a particular crop, wheat, rice, or whatever, they can sell it using 3 months futures or 6 months futures, like that. They can lock in prices, right? This is also useful to exporters as well. If they want to export after 3 months or after 6 months, they can purchase futures. Then limitations. What are the limitations? Very difficult to predict. Yes, commodity prices are very difficult to predict because there are numerous factors affecting the price of commodities. In case of stock price, it is quite simple because all the information related to the company, like company's revenue, company's sales, company's market share, company's news, uh, expansion of the company's business, these are the factors affecting the stock price. But in case of commodity, there are huge number of factors like economic situation of the country, GDP growth, season, monsoon season in the country, whether the country is going to have normal monsoon or not, and subsidies given by the government, availability of finance for commodity trading, everything. There are many factors influencing commodity trading. So commodity markets are very difficult to predict. We cannot say in which direction commodity market will move. Then too many reasons for the market movement. Yeah. So this is why it is very difficult to predict. There are too many reasons for market movement. We cannot say commodity price moved because of this reason. No, there are multiple reasons. So you cannot predict. Deposit the margin based on volatility plus brokerage. Commodity exchanges charge margin for volatility. You have to pay the margin and then trade. You cannot freely trade in commodity exchanges. So you have to pay the margin on volatility, and you have to pay the brokerage also. So you have to pay brokerage to commodity broker and volatility margin to commodity exchange. So there are chances of making profit, but at high cost. Okay. Volatility margin means suppose you purchase a commodity and the next day the price comes to 0 or negative, then what happens? So this may result in default. You don't want to trade in that commodity, but the exchange will not allow you to do that. Once you have committed to commodity, you have to complete the transaction. Okay, suppose you use the margin facility without paying margin. You do a trade. Okay, I'm trying to keep it simple. You will trade in a particular commodity. So the next day, if the price comes to 0 or negative, it may result in default of the transaction. It will result in default because it will result in heavy loss. So to cover such losses and ensure settlement will happen, exchanges collect volatility margin as a fee to cover such fluctuations, to cover such volatility. So volatility margin is a margin collected to overcome losses created by volatility or heavy fluctuations. Okay, then not yet developed in India, so it is less reliable. Commodity markets are not so developed in India. Yes, that is quite true. So compared to advanced countries like UK or USA, Canada, Australia, and some developed countries, Indian commodity markets have not developed or not so developed. So they are less reliable. Thank you, students. Thank you for being with me all this while. And remember, losers are far more in number than getters in commodity markets. Don't dare to invest in commodity markets without having adequate knowledge. That is my tip for this lesson. Okay? Don't dare to invest in commodity markets unless you know unless you know how it works. Okay? And remember that. And for any clarification, you can leave a comment or text me at my WhatsApp number. Okay? So I can clear you any of your doubts, questions, queries, clarifications, anything. Okay? Thank you, students. Thank you once again.